on, ladies and gentlemen, men's physique fans from all across the world? It is the Men's Physique Show, and we're back after a week. We've been traveling, a lot going on, but let's start with my brothers. First and foremost, let's get it in. Our boy, hailing out of Thailand, the heartbeat of men's physique, the man who has perpetuated Ryan Terry to go on a 3 Olympian championship run. You know him as the heartbeat of men's physique, Hart McGrath. Let's go.
Let's go, Hart.
And it's your boy, the Gaffer, Aline Bolton, hailing out of Atlanta, Georgia, traveling all over the damn state, all over the countries, and getting it in. And my boy, our brother, Phil Naselli, the Australian voice of men's physique. I'm all over the place today. I'm excited. I'm so excited. I even got my orders confused and all deranged and whatnot, but it doesn't matter. I don't even know what country he's in. Bro, what country are you in right now? You go from Italy.
Gaffer is all over the place.
You're flying to the moon. Where the hell are you?
I am somewhere lost in Greece at the moment. Gaffer, you threw me off with that intro, man. I didn't know where you were going. I don't know who was coming next. But we got to the end. Boys, how's everyone doing?
Boys, I'm doing great, man. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. It's been a week, and one hell of a week at that. Woo! What's going on, Hart?
So happy to be here. So happy to be in Thailand. So happy to give the boys, give the horde, give the men's physique community some big news. If you were on Instagram over the weekend, I'm sure you saw some of the reels we put out about the show. The show we're talking about is the DC Pro Jo Uezato. Jo Uezato.
Joe.
We gotta think of a nickname for Joe. Joe King.
I got it. The Japanese
the
samurai. He's ice is cold, mate.
If he's samurai,
We're gonna bet on.
I love that. I love that.
I was gonna say we've got one.
But isn't he by default? Isn't he the samurai Japanese automatically?
Look at that face.
But have
How
you got
many people is he unalived?
100%.
With a samurai sword.
On the stages.
I like it.
Joe Uezato.
Japanese samurai.
Joe the samurai. Joe the Japanese
Joe the samurai. Let's go with the Joe the samurai.
Joe the samurai. Gets
Samurai
first
Joe.
place.
Samurai Joe.
There it is. Because it's
Samurai Joe. There we go.
Samurai Joe. I love that. Samurai Joe went head to head with Basa and Junpei Taguchi. We haven't seen Joe Uezato compete all year. It's almost like people forgot about him. And man, he just shows up to America and whoops ass. And he brings such a different physique than I feel like we've been seeing by the Japanese guys on stage, by the Brazilians. This is a much thicker, much fuller, it looks like. Just a dense Japanese samurai physique. I love Joe's physique. I've always loved his physique. Just bubbly. Chest, delts, the back. He had one of my favorite back photos of the entire show. We'll get into it in a little bit. Gaff, I'll throw it over to you first. Is it a surprise to you seeing Joe Uezato take down Junpei Taguchi and win the Legion Sports Fest?
Are you sharing your screen by any chance, or no? Not yet. Okay. Joe.
We're all rusty here.
We're rusty.
Yeah,
boys.
we're all rusty. Sorry, everybody. Yeah. One week gone, and you see what happens. First, no, I'm not surprised at all. Joe, we already know, comes in super full, bro. Like he packed on a lot of dense muscle in the off season, and he already had a lot to begin with last year. So, not surprised at all. I love his posing. Love his board shorts. I love the tan. He checked all the boxes that you could possibly check for his physique at this stage in men's physique. He had a great core. His waist is a little bit wider than Junpei, but the way he puts his hands on his hips and kind of brings his hips in, it's that illusion. Again, it's what the judges see. That's what it's about. It's not about what is. It's about what they see. And angling your body, covering certain parts of your body, showcasing and just like pushing certain body parts forward can just change the entire look. And again, it's the look that the judges are judging on. So really thought that he brought an incredible physique. I thought, he's got a very, very, again, full chest, very dense. Reminds me a lot of what's our boy? Another Joe with the full chest.
Joe with the full chest?
Joe Segaban?
No, I'm thinking Jeremy Potvin.
Potvin.
Yeah. Jeremy Potvin also has a very full chest. You know, the pecs are very dominating on the physique. Joe has a very similar look. And bros, I thought he looked phenomenal. I had him literally obviously in the top 3. I think we all got the top 3 correct as we typically do. Just the order sometimes can be a little bit different. I think I had Joe coming in third, if I'm not mistaken, second or third, but said it was very close. It's going to be very close. He won, and kudos to him. I think he looked phenomenal. What'd you think, Phil?
Yeah, I like the look of Joe. I mean, I've been following him for a while now. The one thing that I knew for sure what was going to happen was he was going to come in full. And one thing that I noticed throughout his whole prep was when other athletes start to deplete, when other athletes come towards the tail end of their prep, everyone looks flat, everyone looks stringy. This guy had no issue with fullness up until the last day. So and one thing that I said in the recent reel when we did the athlete spotlight was, even if he decides not to 100% fill up, he's probably going to be one of the most full guys on that stage. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, you know, you highlighted the body parts perfectly, Gaffer. His abs were etched in. His chest was full and round and bubbly. And then when he turned to the back, in my eyes, had one of the most dominant backs on that stage. Now, I only wish that there was some better footage of the show. I mean, shout out to Taito. He was there on the day. I think he was actually spending time with Joe leading up to the show as well. But he had what it took to win out the show. I mean, in my eyes, based on history, even though Junpei won the Legion last weekend, I don't think he brought the same look. He left the door open for someone like Joe to take the win. Even with history, I mean, Joe is a top 14 Olympian. I think it was a couple of years ago where he did place in that top 15. He's beaten Junpei. He beat him in Tokyo in 2023. Now, obviously, the physiques have gotten better, but he has got history over Junpei. And, you know, history repeated itself this weekend with a phenomenal look and, you know, deserved the win on the day. Hart, what's your thoughts?
Dude, I think this guy looks so damn good that he just literally, when he poses, it looks so relaxed. It looks so easy to him. And like, that's something that so many guys struggle with and that probably will just never be able to do just because this guy's just so naturally aesthetic. I mean, he just puts his hand on his waist and literally just swivels his shoulders from left to right. And it looks absolutely beautiful. The stage presence is there. The confidence is there. He's like, okay, I'll do 2 hands and I'll just move from left to right. There is nothing more demanding on a stage to me than a big ass chest. And that's why I love Joe's physique. I mean, it's if you don't have a chest in 2026, if you don't have a bubbly round chest as a men's physique guy in 2026, you're falling behind. The chest is it's overrated, but it's underrated at the same time. And you think of guys who have the best chest in the world, it's why we love their physiques. And then from the back, he surprised the shit out of me. Like, I forgot how good that Jo Uezato back was. Basa has a good back. It's not a great back, it's a good back. Jo Uezato's back with that width and just how pretty the muscles just flow. I should know the anatomy by now. I'll work on that. But he just looked peeled. The shape was there. Of course he won. And he was the favorite of Physique League as well for a reason.
I just want to say, too, 3 things about Joe. One is he reminds me of a lot, the way he poses, even the back pose of Brandon Hendrickson. Like, you could tell he studied Brandon and picked up a lot of the small nuances. The swivel on the back toe, using the back toe to swivel and angle the body and pan it back and forth. The going from 1 hand on hip to 2 hands on hip, Brandon Hendrickson all day, right? The squeeze, right? The squeeze to show the rectors. And then the way where he places his arms is very similar to Brandon. Now, it looks like, in my humble opinion, like what most athletes do, you take your top guys that you really like and you dissect their posing and you kind of make your own. And you could tell that he also liked the Aaron Banks because he does that, you know, that explosive, volcano explosive, hands come over, and he doubles down on that, in fact, in his back pose to really like contract those back muscles. And his lats go crazy. So the second thing I wanted to talk about also is when he goes into his front pose, I love how he makes sure that left lat pops out, the hand off hip, the one that's off. He makes sure that lat just flares out. Look at that thing. That's really, really beautiful. And that's a great look. I mean, it's when you see a guy and the lat just hangs like that and connects, and the arm is just sitting on the lat. It's not like he's struggling to keep it out. It's not like it looks like he's forcing the hand to be far out and off the lat. It's just sitting there. It's sitting on that meat. Pause. And it looks great. Full arms. You see the cap in the shoulder, how the tricep hits, and then you see how it just balloons up into the shoulder, and long width, balanced across. The shoulders are balanced. You don't see the contraction in the traps in that front pose. Again, if he had a slightly smaller waist, this guy would be very, very, very difficult to beat in the top 10. You know, of course, he placed in the top 15 a couple of years ago, but in the top 10 guys, if his waist was a little bit more streamlined, he'd be even more of a threat than he is right now. So, I mean, great look. And then the last thing I want to mention is the fact that the back, I agree with you boys 100%. Like, he had one of the most dominating, if not the most dominating back that was up there. Of course, you can say, I forget the brother who's on the left-hand side. I think it's Oman or something like that is his tag. He has a great back, of course. I like his lats and how the lower lats kind of sit like that. He's got that like a smaller almost version, or maybe a similar size version of Aaron Banks with the way his muscles insert. But Samurai Joe, the level of detail in the upper lats, in the delts, in the upper traps, the rhomboids are pressing the middle and upper traps right through the skin. You see the clarity. You see how grainy his skin is. That level of graininess, the thin skin, the look, the arms, the triceps are really, really thick and pronounced. Everything is flowing right into the physique, into like this triangular X frame that he's got going on. I don't think that there's any doubt that he was number one this week. And people can try to say whatever they want if they are out there. The shorts even look dope. The shorts are even different, you know, and different from everybody else that was up there. So I just think that the guy checked all the boxes you could possibly check with his physique, coming into the States, hitting our soil, and just doing a phenomenal job representing Japan. Boys, I have a question for you guys. What's going on with the American athletes? I mean, we're consistently seeing week over week foreign athletes coming in and taking these dubs, taking the wins. What do you boys think of that?
I think America will always be the holy grail, you know, the land of bodybuilding. But you can just see the physiques coming out of different parts of the world. I mean, look at Brazil, for example. Look at Asia. Look at Japan. Look at China. Look at Indonesia. Look at India. The world's starting to catch up. I don't think bodybuilding is as safe as what it once was in America, but it's good. I mean, I'm glad that the guys from overseas are putting up a fight now. Like, we saw Joe head over to the States. He won a pro show. We see Junpei fly over to the States. He won a pro show. We see Victor Ramirez fly over to the States, win a pro show. So I love the competition. I love the fact, and they all bring completely different physiques. I mean, the Asian aesthetics look completely different to the American physiques, the American mass monsters. Then you've got a combination of the two in Brazil. You've got some mass monsters, for example, Emerson Costa, but you also have some more aesthetically pleasing looking guys. You got your Victor Ramirez's. So I feel like it's great to see. I love the fact there's more competition. I love the fact that the sport isn't being heavily dominated by Americans anymore, and it obviously increases the exposure of the sport around the world, increases the opportunity for athletes as well. So I personally love it. Hart, what do you think?
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say that there's going to come a time, and I'm going to say it's going to be within the next 6 years, that America is not going to be the dominant force at the Mr. Olympia. I think it's going to be several Americans, and then the top 10, it's going to be Japan, China, Brazil, all this stuff. And that may or may not have been what you meant exactly, but I guess just my point is, I do agree with you. It's so cool to see everyone from all over the world be competitive, no matter where they compete at in the world, especially in America, where for the longest time in men's physique, it was number one. We had the best athletes. I'm sure there was a time where maybe most of the top 15, 90% were Americans, and now we see it changing. This is what, week 2 or 3, where a Japanese men's physique Olympian smokes the Americans, smokes the Brazilians. And speaking of Brazilians, Gaff, I'll throw it over to you. Second place at this show. Basa hasn't posted anything on his profile, so we're going to go off of just what we have. I know we have a good video from Taito. Shout out to our boy Taito Sasaki out of Anabolic Space. We got to get him back on here, maybe for another Japanese show. The GAFA may link up with him actually in Asia at some point, because I know the GAFA is going to Japan. But let's talk about Basa, GAFA. And before I start this video, let me ask you, Diogo Basaglia out of Brazil competed last week, was gunning for that first position, missed it. Here he is again, beat Junpei Taguchi, who won Legions the week prior. What do you think of his performance at the DC Pro, Basa?
I like Basa a lot, man. I mean, I think that he got better than he was last week when he came in second. I think he looks tighter. But again, it's who shows up. I love his tan here more than last week. I think that he nailed the tan really, really well here. This is the kind of like goldenish, like light brownish color I think that you want to achieve. It's part of why Victor Ramirez won the Southern USA show, which was a phenomenal show. And I love his choice of shorts. I mean, I've got the Vibraniums right here from Manifest. Check these boys out right here, boys. Like,
they're fire.
I had to go with purple because, you know, representing Hart, you know, one of his favorite colors right there is purple. So, you know, I had to represent my boy right there when I put the order in. But I love these Manifest shorts on him. The yellow really pops, and yet they're black shorts with the yellow popping. It really makes them stand out. And you can appreciate the legs. You can appreciate the wheels on him. You can. The thing with Basa is that lower ab section. Like, he's so dominating, and he has such a long upper body that the abs stand out a lot. Like, your eyes are drawn to that area. And it's not drawn because they're so detailed. It's drawn because it just takes up a lot of his body. You know, his chest is good, and he has a nice chest. I think he should come in fuller in the chest for sure. But when you're standing next to Samurai Joe, who has an extremely full chest, especially for his size. So you got to also understand, like, Joe is a shorter athlete than Basa. And Basa's chest, although very nice, it's not enough there to beat out Jo Uezato. And then the abs, you're up there against Jo Uezato and so many other athletes who are just carved in the core section. It's hard to beat these guys unless your core and obliques are just totally insane. He has a great back. I mean, a good back. He has a very good back. Let me say that. He's a tall guy. He's got a beautiful flow. To me, Basa had the best flow up there in terms of, like, just looking at a men's physique athlete. I love his flow, but when you start nitpicking and getting into the details, really great cap shoulders, of course, but it's that ab section. It's got to be so dialed in. You got to see those additional 2 abs in the lower ab section, and he's really has strong 4 abs, like those top 4. And then it fades out. And I think that that's why he doesn't place higher. I think he would have won if he would have had those abs more etched in. And it's a genetic thing. You know, it's just genetics, I think, at this point. He can probably get him in etched a little bit more with diet. But at this stage, I think it's a genetic thing. What do you boys see?
I can only imagine how frustrated Basa must be, because I've looked at some of the stats, and since 2025, this guy's collected 5 second places in the space of 12 months. Like, this guy is almost there. He can almost smell a win. I know he won DC last year, but you know, to come so close so many times would be extremely frustrating for him. I agree with what you said, Gaffer. In comparison to where he was last week at the Legion, he's coming a lot sharper. But when you look at these 2 guys side by side, there's no doubt about it, your eyes will always get drawn to Joe. And it's purely because of that midsection. You know, he's got one of the cleanest, one of the sharpest midsections, especially on that stage. And I feel like that's always going to let Basa down. But even when he turned to the back, one thing that I noticed was he wasn't posing correctly. If you scroll down, is it that photo, huh? Yeah, he kind of drops his shoulders a little bit. Now, when you compare Jo Uezato comparison to Basa, you can see from delt to delt that those shoulders are in a completely straight line. Basa loses it, and now it makes his back look a little bit smaller. And when you're up against someone like Jo Uezato, who has a dominating back, you're going to make Joe's back look even better than what it is. So I feel like it could have came down to a bit of a posing issue as well, especially from the rear shot. But I agree with you, Gaffer, that midsection is is always going to be a hindering factor for Basa. But then that being said, when you look at someone like Vitor Chavez, who has the exact same issue, he's always got those 2 to 4 abs on top. You know, obviously he's got a completely different silhouette and he's more dominating in specific parts, but he's got the same issue as Vitor Chavez. And I feel like that's always going to be his Achilles heel. But end of the day, there's only so much you can do about that. Hart, what do you think?
I'm just going to recap what you guys said. I mean, I threw it over to Gaffa first, and I love the handoff to Phil. I think you guys are spot on. A great breakdown from the shorts to the tan to the shoulders to the abs, where I still think, obviously, he needs to work on. And I'm sure Cuts is telling him, you know, we need to work on those in the offseason. The judges, hopefully, are telling him lower abs. And then I think back development and posing, just little things, really. He's right there. He's so damn close. And I think the whole men's physique community loves this look. I see Basa being a 2026 men's physique Olympian. I think he's going to have to fight extra hard for it.
Do you think, before we move on to number 3, do you think that part of the posing, I mean, I know that this is the case. When you're doing comparisons, especially when you have a shorter guy, you're a taller guy, and you have a shorter guy underneath your arm, it can raise that left side. And it's a lot of times it's where the arms are placed. And you'll see guys battling and like pushing each other, a lot of nudging and stuff like that with the, you know, because everyone wants to win and it becomes competitive. And that back pose becomes one of the most competitive moments damn near in every show that you see. A lot of times when someone is, there's two parts where you hear the judges kind of course correct everyone and get a little stern. And it's the back pose number 1. When guys are kind of jockeying for position and space, that's why they made the boxes on stage. So they tape off boxes on the stage so every athlete can stand in that box and have enough room. But everyone naturally gravitates towards the middle because everyone wants to be in the middle, right? Everyone wants to be dead center because that's the best look. That normally dictates who's going to move on and who's going to win the show, is whoever's placed in the middle. Typically, not always, but 95% of the time that's the case. Sometimes they'll take, depending on who the judge is, the head judge, they move who's going to be first off to the side because they actually want to see comparisons, who's coming in second, third, and so forth. So they move them in the middle just to kind of get their numbers together. You see that overseas sometimes, especially in Tokyo. The Tokyo Pro last year was notorious for that. But this, like, athletes can either step forward and move away from the line by stepping closer to the back screen, or they have to move over or somehow adjust by moving back a little bit. You can't cross the line. Maybe your heels can and you can get away with it, but you can't have like a total foot length behind that line, or else they're going to, you know, shout you out. The judges are going to shout you out and be like, hey, you got to get back on the line. But you've got to just figure out your angle. And guys don't really practice comparisons a lot of times. So they get up there and it rattles them. So one arm could be higher than the other because of where Joe, like you see how low Joe is, and Basa's arm is literally sitting on top of it. That's not the look. You know, you got to figure out how to kind of find your space within all the other athletes. And then the front pose. Dudes will typically want to get a little past the line in order to show they're more dominating. And, you know, sometimes that trailing leg will come well outside of scope, outside of the box, into someone else's space, and almost like stepping on their feet, or the guys are getting so crunched together in the middle because, again, everyone wants to be seen as close to the middle as possible to really, what they believe, to have a fair shot in the middle. And it's just competitive, but everyone has to stand in their space. If they do that, you know, the judges will clearly see everyone, and it's just more appealing. You can actually like showcase your physique a lot more. But that's kind of some of the challenges being a taller guy next to shorter guys, and vice versa. I mean, you can see shorter guys sometimes get the short stick, and taller guys are resting, like literally pushing their arms down, and mess up their back pose. So it goes either way. You just got to find your space on stage a lot of times, and practice makes perfect.
I want to play devil's advocate real quickly. What's your thoughts on this pose on Basa? Now, I know Basa's been doing this pose for ever since I remember him. He flares his arms out as wide as he can, and then he just drops them. Has he ever done a one hand on hip?
I'll let Hart take that.
I have no idea.
I almost feel like a one hand on hip could benefit him, especially in regards to making him wider at the top and smaller at the bottom. Like at the moment, he's always been known for this. I mean, it's not lazy posing. I don't want anyone to think I'm calling this lazy posing, but I just feel like he just drops his arms down and it kind of brings his chest down. It kind of narrows him out a little bit. When I look at someone like even that photo that was with Jo Uezato next to him, when Joe had his one hand on hip and his arm out wide, it made him look so much wider than Basa. Now, Basa's got big lats. Now, all of a sudden, if Basa was to put that one hand on hip and he will close a lot of the gap in between his waist and his arm, it's going to make him a lot wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. I would love to see Basa hit that pose. That could be maybe, I don't know, a deciding factor between second and
Are his arms
first.
big enough? You think his arms are big enough to do that? You think there may be too big of a gap? I'm just thinking for me, the reason why I don't do that is because my arm is just, I don't really have a big round arm, you know? So the only thing I could think of, Phil, is maybe him and Cut stay away from it because it would show he needs to work on his arms. You know, I don't know.
Possibly.
What do you think, Gaffa? What do you guys think?
I'd like to see Basa with the one hand on hip. Absolutely. I don't think that two hands on hip would be a good look. I like his angle pose because of his waist. And you're right, Hart. He's got some really nice lats on him. I'd be curious to see. He's got cap shoulders. He's got some of the best cap shoulders in the game. And I think that when you put the one hand on hip, you are able to pop that front, that lead shoulder can pop more, and the judges would appreciate that a little bit more. But I agree. I mean, it's one of those things that I wonder if he's played around with it and tried it. A lot of guys get used to the posing that they've always done, and they need to change. I mean, you look at Lucky Libra, Andre Ferguson. He's used to doing both hands on hip, the Superman pose. That's really not a look for him anymore, in my humble opinion. I think that he needs to angle his waist, and I think he needs to, be a little bit more on the side. And I think Basa kind of falls into the same category of a guy who has the parts, but again, how you show it off, and he might want to just play around with how he shows off that front pose a little bit. The one hand on hip certainly would make him have more of an X frame, and but they got to play around with it, and Cuts has to be on board. Obviously, I mean, Cuts has an eye for these things, but I'd like to see it 100%. I saw Emerson Costa, just as a FYI. A lot of people said, Emerson, could it be Vitor or should it be Vitor? Victor, not Vitor. Victor Ramirez at the Southern USA, and I see that also. Back wide, this, that, and the third, but it's the posing. And if Emerson posed a little bit off the side and angled his body so that the waist is hidden and doesn't drop that front leg and do such a bend at the knee, I think that the results could have been different. Again, just another example of you have a physique that's a top 2 physique. What's preventing you from becoming number 1 and winning that dub? And depending on who you go up against, you might need to alter your posing. You might need to alter some of the things that you do, depending on who you're standing next to. Or it might just be a matter of, hey, this actually does look better on my physique. Imagine how much, I was winning with what I was doing before at these other shows because of who showed up to the competition. But now I've just elevated my posing cap, my posing ceiling so much because now I've made these small adjustments, and you can add another top 5 guys or whatever into the equation that I can now beat because I'm showcasing my physique a little bit better. So I think certain guys fall in that category. A lot of guys fall in that category, Basa being one of them.
Very well said. I hope the Horde caught that. A lot of good information in that. Let's move over to third place at the DC Pro. Our guy, 2026 Legion Sports Fest champ, Avomp Junpei Taguchi out of Japan. I got to tell you, I love this look. When we all think about men's physique, we think about this. I mean, from the haircut to the smile to the jawline. I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to say pause because I believe this is one of the most handsome dudes in the division. If there's Ryan Terry, Andre Du, Basa, I'm going to put Junpei in there. He has such a great look for the IFBB, especially from the front. Phil, I'll let you break down this guy, Junpei Taguchi, third place at the DC Pro. What'd you think of Junpei?
Firstly, who do we talk to get Junpei a Calvin Klein contract? Because I think he's in need of a Calvin Klein modeling contract or something. But I'm with you, man. Like, this guy has a beautiful physique. I'm a massive fan of the Asian aesthetics. This guy brings it every single time he jumps on stage. You know, we saw it last week at Legion. Obviously, well deserved the win over there. I mean, the package that he brought over there, the peak. You know what him and Neil are able to do. Speaking of Neil, I don't know. There's not many coaches in the world that are able to nail peaks as well as what Neil Yoda Hill has in 2026. We saw it with Carlos. We saw it with Brandon. We saw it with Junpei. He's just back-to-back wins. And, you know, he missed the mark. They missed the mark a little bit on this occasion. Still brought a great physique. But when you compare what Junpei looked like last week and what he looked like this weekend, it was a little bit of a different story. Now, he was a lot sharper, a lot crisper last week. Now, it could have been the lighting. If you pull up a photo from Legion, the lighting is a little bit different. But also his tan was a little bit lighter this weekend as well. He looked a lot darker last weekend. He looked a lot sharper last weekend, especially in the back. If you can pull up whenever it loads high, if you can get a photo of Junpei from the back, he's the detail, the separation, the fullness. He had vascularity coming through the traps. It was a completely different, story last week in comparison to this week. But, because of that little, I'm not going to say error, but because of that little detail, Basa got sharper in the last 7 days. Now, obviously, Basa came second at Legion. He came in a little bit sharper this weekend and obviously was able to, Junpei left the door open and Basa was able to overtake him this weekend. But, all in all, I really like the look of Junpei. I think he will be a 2026 Olympian. He's collected a pro show win last week. He's collected some vital points in the US this week. And I'm sure he's going to probably do a couple more shows in the US while he's there. And then when he goes over to Asia, he'll probably do a couple of shows there as well. So there's no doubt in my eye we're going to see Junpei at the 2026 Mr. Olympia. But Gaffer, let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, Junpei is just a phenomenal looking human being walking the planet. I mean, to you guys' point, the Ryan Terry, the Andre Dayu, just handsome dudes, guys that just have a look about them, and that's and the league loves that. I mean, so many times we hear men's physique division is at least it used to be considered a beauty contest, right? A lot of times, and people would say that who don't really understand and didn't understand where the division was going and where it's arrived now. Now it's absolutely way more bodybuilding centric. I like the detail in his lower back for sure. I love the detail in his ab section. I think he does a great job posing. The holding of the poses and whatnot is just great. His timing is really, really well. That's something that a lot of athletes don't do a good job of, is controlling the posing and the tempo. I was talking about this at the Southern USA with a lot of the guys there. It's something that you got to work on. And some people have it because they've worked on it so long. Your Ryan Terry's, your Vitor Chavez, Brandon Hendrickson's, Ali Bilal, like your top 10 guys, there's a common thread between them. And Junpei accentuates that. It's the timing. He can slow it down and then he speeds it up. He takes his time. He understands he's a professional. I don't need to be rushed. I'm a pro. And he showcases the physique really, really well. I think he needs to increase the back, and he knows that. Judges know that. It's a genetic thing. Some guys, some of his countrymen, Sean, Joe, they have wider backs. And if his back was wider, he probably would have won the show. I think he lost it from the back. He had it in the front, I think, or was very comparable. Chest could come up a little bit more compared to Joe, but I think that his ab section was probably one of the best in the game, and it still wasn't as crispy as it was last week at Legions. So I do think that there's room for improvement for him and going into his next show for sure. But the back is just going to be like an off-season thing that he's going to have to grow into for 2027 probably. And I think that'll come up, or at least for the O, if he can shut it down, win his next show, and then punch his ticket into the O. But phenomenal look, great looking guy, like you guys said. Tan, everything was there. I like him with the red shorts more. I think it pops his physique a little bit more. So I like the red shorts that he wears a little bit better. But again, great look on this guy. Like, look how crispy he was there. I mean, that was and he didn't even exhale yet there. So again, when you see pictures like this, when the fans see pictures like this, sometimes the photographers are not catching them in the actual pose. They're almost in the pose, and they still post those pictures. It's the closest thing that they have, so they post those pictures. When you're there in person, you see a lot of the detail, the graininess, the vascularity. You can see them when they actually settle into the pose, and then judge it on that. You can see if they're sweating, if the tan is starting to run, if they're starting to fade, if the longer they're up there, if they start to lose their lines. You don't get to appreciate that or see that in these still pictures, because these are static pictures. So just keep that in mind when you are kind of casting your own judgment and saying, well, this guy should have won, or this guy could be better than that guy. That's something just to keep in the forefront of your mind when you make your assessments.
Love that, boys. That was your top 3 at the DC Pro. First place, Jo Uezato, Samurai Joe. 5 people on Physique League this week got it correct out of everyone. So a little bit of a better placing, but still, knowing Junpei, knowing Basa, knowing Jo Uezato are doing this show, pretty cool. He collabed with it. You think there'd be more people, and the fact that there was only 5 is just like, we missed it. I don't know if you guys played last week. I played. I missed it. I missed it again. I still haven't got perfect, so it's very difficult. That was the DC Pro. That was your top 3. I was looking at men's physique news, and maybe we could talk about one more guy who was at that show, because since we just talked about the top 3, looking at the photo here, Joe, I know he tagged some more guys right here. Let's see who we got. Zach Savoy.
Is that the
Pro. We haven't seen.
Is that the guy on the far right? Yes, that's him. I was just looking at him as you had that photo pulled up. I thought this guy is shredded to the gills. Like, take a look at that oblique shot. Like, even that top 5 photo. If you can pull that top 5 photo back up, Hart, I feel like he had the most shredded obliques out of the top 5. Now, obviously, everyone's getting ready for their shot and whatnot, but my eyes were actually drawn straight to him in that shot. This guy's got a crazy physique. Like, take a look at this. Does that not stand out more than everyone else in that pose? Is he like?
Great, has he been shot, good angle, good everything?
Has he been competing for a while? Was he like new to the scene?
Zach's been competing for a while. I think he was. I want to say, and don't quote me, but he was battling like injuries or something. But he's been in the game. Yeah, I think this guy's been in the game for a while. Always brings that crazy taper. I know that feels good for him. I don't know if he put anything up on his Instagram. Be curious to see how he feels after the show.
He was another guy I think he was at Southern USA show, and didn't place well, but came back with way better conditioning this week, and obviously it showed with his placing. He had, I guess, 2 weeks in order to get it right, or a weekend and some change to get it right, and he did, because wow, I agree with you. His obliques go crazy, his serratus goes crazy. Definitely the best obliques up there. Has a great ab cage details there. It's a size thing for him. It's the chest, it's the other body parts that he's just being beaten out by the guys. Beautiful flow. Reminds me of Miles Mann a little bit with the way he poses and his structure, like the flow of his structure, but just with like tighter obliques. Whereas like Miles has a fuller chest, in my humble opinion. It's almost like you want to take those 2 parts and kind of, take one from the other, or bring the other one that like that part of the body, and then both of those guys skyrocket upward in terms of their placing. But he's got a great look, man. He poses well. I like to see him twist a little bit more and bring that left arm over just a little bit more than what he normally showcases. I think he could. I think it would be a little bit of a better look, a better angle for the judges. But wow, he's got a great look to him. And another guy who has a look to him. Handsome dude kind of thing. Has that that just vibe to him. You know, he has a good look.
And he's super consistent as well. Like, just going through his Instagram page, like every show that he does, he's absolutely dialed. He's not like one of these athletes where they'll do one show and come in super peeled and super dried, and then the next show or the next season it's a completely different package. Like, this guy is super dry and peeled at every single show that he does. So man, this is awesome stuff, bro. This guy's got a bright future ahead. I'm looking forward to keeping tabs on him.
Yeah, same.
100%. 100%. That was your DC Pro. Very exciting. Japan took over everything. Junpei's still talking on his YouTube. Go check out this video. He's reflecting on it. Super cool. Didn't know he had a YouTube channel. Look at the fan base in Japan. 16 hours ago, almost 90,000 views on YouTube. That's going to pay him more than the third place check right there. Talked about Diogo. Super interested to see what him and Cuts have planned for the next few weeks. But we got the Toronto Pro this weekend, Gaffa. And Andre Ferguson says, and I quote, Lucky Libra 213 with the blue check mark. He says, and he got the blue check mark before you could pay for the blue check mark. So he's an OG. He says, peak week, competition number 2 of the season next weekend, another week to be better. Latest physique update. The men's physique community is rooting him on. They love him. 28-time pro champ for a reason. 10-time Olympian. Gaffa, second place at the Olympia before. 3 Arnold Classic champions. Does Andre Ferguson, I know we don't have the roster, but does Andre Ferguson, can he win this show? Without seeing the roster, Gaffa, what do you think? Honestly.
I mean, you got to see the roster in order to be able to really answer that question, because Andre can't beat everybody, in my humble opinion. You know, there's a slew of guys that are just more, but like Carlos Ocran going to that show, he's not beating Carlos Ocran, in my humble opinion. I think Carlos is just too big, has the same level of detail in the back in many aspects. But Andre, I mean, first and foremost, you got to give him nothing but props for having the size, that this guy has. I mean, this guy is
Phil, you can't.
He's in his.
I am now.
Yeah, this guy's in his 40s. He looks phenomenal. He looks like he's 20-something years old with his physique. He's the most winningest men's physique guy in the game in terms of pro shows. I mean, Masters Olympian champ, going to the Masters again. I mean, Andre just continues to be awesome throughout his career, and his career is not over by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's got a lot of fight in him. He's got a physique that's holding up to the test of time. Do I think that it's gotten smaller in certain aspects? Yes. I don't think that it has the same level of bubbliness that like he had back in the day. And like that's just an incredible look. Like, look at that look. When you see how small his waist is there, and the proportions of the muscles and how they're all sitting and the detail and everything, that was just a phenomenal look. Now think about this. That was back in 2019? Is that when that was?
Around there, yeah.
Right? The league has gotten better. Everyone's gotten bigger. They've gotten better. So even with this physique, is it enough to... It's a physique that would win shows for sure, but is it enough to win the O? Probably not, right? Because guys are just bigger. Ryan Terry is bigger now. They're grainier. You know, your top 10 guys are just coming in with just a really full look and really bouncy look to their physique. And they're conditioned out the ass. So everybody's conditioned. You know, back then, he was probably the most conditioned. Him and Brandon were probably the most conditioned guys on that stage. But if you were to look nowadays, this is what we would say is really great conditioning. But we would also probably compare it to the other guys on stage and say there's probably a few guys that are equal, if not even better, in some aspects in terms of the conditioning. But I think that he looked crazy dope. Wanted to see different shorts on him. I wanted to see him flare his lats a little bit more. I think that the waist is a little bit wider for the shoulder ratio than what we're used to seeing. I don't see the same level of detail in the back. Not just looking at this, but I mean, I looked at the show. I saw the posing. Andre is there, man. I mean, this was his first show back in a little while, and It'll be interesting to see how he shows up here at the Toronto Pro. Can he beat Drew? I don't know. I don't think he can. I think that Drew just has a look to him, has a flow to him, is a little bit bigger now than he is in many aspects. I think that Drew's the chest, the arms, the streamline into the waist, the detail that Drew has put into his back, especially in the middle of his back, is just there. I just think that Drew is probably going to beat him at the Toronto Pro. And if Drew beats him at the Toronto Pro, then, I don't think that there's any conversation whether or not he can win the Olympia. Do I think he can place well, top 15, top, if they actually did the top 20, yes. But there's so many guys that you have to be able to beat out. Evan Palmera, Ali Bilal, Brandon Hendrickson, Ryan Terry, Carlos Ocron, Francisco Martinez, even Emerson Costa, which Emerson has a wider waist, but the level of width in his back and the detail and everything and how grainy he comes in, like I think that the league is just continues to grow. And if you haven't been on your game the entire time, stepping back into the waters like he is right now on a competitive level, I'm not saying you go and compete, but competing to actually win and be heralded as top 5 guys and whatnot. I don't think it's possible to take off that amount of time and come back and actually place that well with where the guys are these days. Ryan Terry can do it. Brandon Henderson can do it because they never took time off. Not any lengthy period of time. And they were always striving and being in on their diet. So the physique reflects that. If you fuck around on your diet for a year or 2 or 3 years and then decide that now I'm coming back, it's just not going to bounce back like that. It takes time. Muscle has to stick to the skeleton, to your skeletal frame. The conditioning, the level of detail, those smaller muscle fibers have to have time to burn the fat away and also, push through the skin. I just don't see it happening. So I do have him in the top, probably as of right now, from what we know who's going to be at the Toronto Pro. I have him in the top 3 for the Toronto Pro as of right now, but I don't have him for the win for the Toronto Pro. What do you think, Phil?
I think
I know I said a lot.
No, that's fine. I think I was watching all the footies that was going through. I think last week is what everyone needed to see. Dre did talk a big game moving into this show. He has said things that he'll win the Olympia and he'll do this and he'll do that. He wasn't up to scratch last week. And you pretty much said everything that I was thinking. I mean, the division has moved on since Dre was at his prime. He has lost the size. Yes, he brought the conditioning. Yes, he looked absolutely incredible. But as your body gets older, there's only so much you can do. When you're up against, young bucks who are fresh into the game, receptors are fresh, they're thriving, they're ready to rock and roll. It's very hard to go up against someone that is like that. Last year, Dre had a season where he was just in it to, just collect some checks and collect some medals. While he was doing that, there was guys fighting for Olympias. There was guys who wanted top 10s. There was guys who wanted top 5s. There was people who wanted to win the Olympia. And 12 months makes a massive difference. Now he's come back. Yes, he brought an amazing physique. But in my opinion, and I don't want to be roasted for this, but the division has grown since then. Do I think Dre can win the Toronto Pro? Like you said, Hart, we don't know the lineup right now, but we know there are a couple of names that are doing the show, and we know that they are hungry for those titles. We know that they do want those pro show wins. We know that they do want to qualify for the Olympia. We know that they've got a completely different mindset, and they're the guys that are going to be hard to beat. Someone like Drew Cullen, it's his show to lose right now. He's won the Toronto Pro the last couple of years. He's going to this show as the favorite. He doesn't want to lose that crown to anyone. He doesn't want to lose the title to someone like Andre Ferguson. So in my eyes, it is going to be very hard to beat someone as locked in as Drew Cullen. And in my eyes, I think Drew is probably going to win this show. I mean, I've said this before, the last couple of shows, he placed well, but he got better and better as the shows got on. Now it's been a couple of weeks since the Memphis Pro that he did. Now he's had 2-3 weeks of more diet, more conditioning, harder dieting, more cardio. He's going to be even more detailed, more crispy, more shredded, hence the name, most shredded. He's going to be the most shredded guy on that stage. And in my eyes, he has made improvements to the back. It isn't the best back in the world, but there's only so much someone can do in an off season. You can't go from an okay back to an incredible back in one off season, but this guy has made some drastic improvements in the last 12 months. And now he does have a back that is up there as, you know, not one of the best backs in the world, but a great back. And, you know, in my eyes, I do feel like Drew is possibly the man to beat at this show. Hart,
Bro,
what do
he
you think?
poses so amazingly.
Yeah.
Drew, he's on point. I mean, he controls the controllables. He pays attention to the small details, like what shorts to wear and everything. I mean, you at this stage you can't make mistakes, and unless Andre pumps his muscles full of oil somehow to make him look bigger, because there's no way you can put on that type of muscle and be full enough in such a short period of time. Unless he does something that's off the Richter like that, I don't see it happening. You know what I mean? What do you think, Hart? Sorry about that, Phil, but what do you think, Hart?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to Andre probably in the top 3. Again, we don't have the roster, but I imagine Andre's going to get better. I just wish he came in fuller and a little bit more conditioned, especially in the chest with Dre. Drew definitely in the top 3. This is his show to win. This is Mr. T we're talking about. Good luck to Drew. And I think this would be a big moment for Drew. I don't know if Drew's ever beaten Andre Ferguson, and I don't know if Drew, if he's ever beaten this guy out of Japan, who is also doing the show.
Wow,
I forgot about this one.
Sean,
go ahead, boys. Have at it. What do you think? Shun's in this show. He's 7
Yeah,
days
Phil.
until he's in Toronto. Is Shun taking this, or is Drew taking this? Is that 1 and 2 if you're playing physically? What are you doing here?
One thing's for sure is the Wagyu beefsteak is going to be present on that Toronto Pro stage. Maybe you can put a bit of Wagyu beef with a bit of Toronto maple syrup. I don't know, but I don't know if who beat who this show. Did Andre beat Shun? No, Shun beat Andre.
No, Sean beat Sean.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, based on that, I mean, if history is going to repeat itself, obviously Shun has a lot more mass than what Andre does. So obviously judges are going to favor that. But, you know, they're two completely different physiques. Like when you look at Shun's got more mass than Drew, but Drew's definitely got the aesthetics over Shun. So it's going to come down to what the judges want. But that's like every show. You know, in my eyes are getting drawn to Drew. I just like the shape of Drew. I like the way that he poses. I like the flow. I like the tight core, the flowing arms, the nice chest. But then again, like Shun's got body parts that Drew is missing, like that back. And, you know, based on this year alone, like it's the year of the back, and backs have been extremely dominating in 2026. So is that what it takes for Shun to win his, you know, being in the US? I mean, does he have what it takes to win his first US show in 2026? Time will tell. But Gaffer, I mean, what do you think?
I think Sean, speaking of history repeating itself, Sean has historically, you know, hit conditioning and then misconditioning a lot. And it's that part of the equation. It's like when you look at Emmanuel Hunter, another guy who has a phenomenal bubbly shape, a lot of muscle like Shun does. But the conditioning, you got to, if they hit it, they're super, super dangerous. If they miss it, they're dangerous, but it just knocks them down a little bit of a tier. You know what I mean? And it's not like these guys aren't top tier athletes. They are. That's not what I'm saying at all. They're definitely, you know, top 15 Olympian athletes, he and Emmanuel Hunter. But to be in that top 5, you're going up against Drew Cullen in this moment or whatever. If you're not in that caliber of top 15 necessarily, unless you come in with that level of conditioning to really showcase the physique the way judges have already seen you showcase it. So that's what they're going off of, some of that visual memory. And then just the way you're standing next to someone else, how it just bounces and looks crispier than what they've got on stage to give you to get the edge, to get the win. Drew's going to come in peeled out of his ass. So unless you are coming like that, then you're going to have to fix the conditioning part of it. And I also think that Shun's back is probably going to be one of the best backs that are on that stage. But he also has a tendency to pose with his left shoulder up higher than his right shoulder. And he has to make some adjustments a lot of times. So in this particular picture, you see it in the actual routine that he does. You can see where he drifts off and then has to bring it back sometimes. And you got to remember to keep the balance. You know, he just has to remember to keep the balance. I've seen out of like, if you were to take 6 shows, 4 of those shows, you could see the wrinkles in his lower back. Out of like 6 shows, 4 of them, you could probably see the wrinkles in the back. He can't come with those wrinkles. He's got to come totally flat back where the skin is resting on the muscle itself. And if he can do that, it's probably shunts to take. As much as I think Drew can win and probably will win, I think that is shunts to take if he comes in with that type of level of conditioning, in my humble opinion.
Hey, Hart, is this the best version of Shun you've ever seen?
The one I'm looking at right now?
2026 version of Shun Kaneko.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could be at these shows, but yeah, bro, like just looking at these videos of him at Legion, he's getting better. He's better than he was last year. You can just see these micro details he's been putting in his physique. Like I like this look, bro. And this is more of him nailing it, in my opinion. I mean, like he's detailed, he's diced here. Another great look. His arms are like perfect. The shoulders
Great.
and the just biceps, I just love it. Thick back. I mean, if you like you guys are saying, if Drew's gonna bring lights out conditioning, we can see it in this video, literally. Where Shun can pass Drew is by bringing that Wagyu back and a super conditioned full package. So I think the battle, I know we don't have the roster, we're not gonna play Physique League just yet, is gonna be between Drew and Shun, and then anyone else notable that shows up, we'll talk about on Wednesday.
Yeah, I like that.
It's going to be a big show on Wednesday, that's for sure.
Yep.
Big
When
show
that
on
lineup gets
Wednesday.
dropped.
Big show. Let's go. That was fun. DC Pro, the boys are back, huh?
We're back, baby. It
Feels
rusty
good.
at the start, but we've returned. Guys,
I was
if you've
all over
made
the
it,
place.
guys, if you've made it to the end of this one, we know they're long episodes, but if you've made it to the end, we thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. Thank you for coming back to the channel after a week hiatus. But if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, boys, I don't know if you guys have realized, we're almost at 30,000 subscribers. And it's going to continue to grow. I think we're at 29 point something K. If we can get 30,000 by the end of next week, we will be happy men. But if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure to do so. Tap the bell icon to be one of the first to see our episodes or OTS every single time they go live. Make sure to like and drop a comment in this one. Really helps with the algorithm. And while you're there, take a screenshot, use the QR code in the top right-hand corner, upload it to your story, tag the Men's Physique Show official, Hart McGrath, Aline Bolton, and Philip Nasali, and we'll reshare that to our Instagram pages as well to help spread the news, the channel, to the broader bodybuilding community. Also, a special thank you to all the guys helping us power the show. Manifest board shorts, their heroes and villain range is now live. We saw Basa wearing them on the weekend. We're going to see so many more athletes repping those Manifest board shorts over the next 12 months, we should say. There's probably going to be more drops in between now and then, but they're going to be everywhere on every Men's Physique stage around the world. Metabolics, Alpha Physique Fitness, ProSeek, and Dr. Campbell over there at the Center of Wellness and Pain Care. All their discount codes and information is in the description below. And guys, enjoy the rest of your morning.
Hold on real quick, Phil. Right before you go, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Southern USA. It was their first year having Men's Physique division, pro Men's Physique division. It's normally, the pros are normally all the women's divisions, and this year they had, like bikini specifically and fit. This year they implemented the Men's Physique Show, and it was a hit, big time hit. I think there were something like 27 athletes or something like that, crazy, that participated, and even the NPC Men's Physique numbers were even higher because of that. So shout out to them. Shannon over there, Shannon Day over there, who does a phenomenal job as a promoter and putting that show on. Just wanted to get them shout out because they showed us a lot of love, gave us media passes and whatnot, and it was really dope to be there with all the folks out there. So shout out to them. Sorry about that. Take it away, Phil.
Shout out to them. And guys, keep your eyes peeled for any other shows those guys do. By sound of what Gaffer said, they put on some incredible shows, and any athlete or fan would be rapt to be part of those shows. But guys, enjoy the rest of the morning, the afternoon, the evening, whatever time you're watching this one, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.